Petition of Matt Yule requesting that the House urge the Government to collect suicide data about Pākehā as a specific group. Petition of Wiremu Thompson requesting that the House require trust deeds to be lodged in a publicly viewable register.
Those petitions stand referred to the Petitions Committee. No papers have been delivered for presentation, no Select Committee reports have been delivered to the Clerk for presentation, and no bills have been introduced. Come to oral questions. The first in the name of Jamie Arbuckle.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Foreign Affairs, has he seen reports about how the government should be responding to international developments?
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Yes, we live in the most challenging and complex international environment in the last 80 years. Every day events occur somewhere in the world which are confounding, surprising and even shocking for many New Zealanders. Some self-appointed experts think that the best way for New Zealand as a government to respond to this environment is to loudly and stridently offer an instant reaction to the outrage of the day before getting all the facts. But we are running a government here, not a global news commentary service, and our job is to promote the interests of New Zealanders in a prudent and active way, not to offer vein-popping virtue signalling to an effort to let off some steam and make ourselves feel superior. And New Zealand's, and that's something that former leaders of the Labour Party and former New Zealand ambassadors to China could do well to remember. We don't take lectures on foreign policy from has-been, irrelevant former pinko communists or from politicians who thought nothing of letting New Zealand's national interest being torched by their inherent anti-Americanism.
Supplementary.
I won't refer to a name, won't name them. So everyone is, when everyone is quiet, Mr Arbuckle, please ask your supplementary. Well, was that a point of order? No, I'd prefer you didn't. I think, Mr Arbuckle, you could proceed with your supplementary.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Would New Zealanders expect their government to speak loudly on the international stage?
More! New Zealanders expect their government to look out for them. Our job is not to provide a running commentary about this or that action or outrage as some kind of vanity exercise. Our job is to promote our country's interests when we can and defend them when we must. We choose to do this calmly and rationally as realists via diplomacy. We pursue mutual interests and opportunities for the benefit of New Zealanders. That is not going to change, and it's an approach appropriate to our chaotic and disruptive times. Many, if not all, the critics of the government's foreign policy are driven by the 24/7 news cycle. They demand we respond immediately to every perceived outrage. But to what end? We, in contrast, are driven by our assessments of how best to defend, grow and strengthen New Zealand's vital foreign policy interests.
Supplementary. So how is the government responding to events on the world stage?
Marvellous question. We have been pursuing a prudent, highly active foreign policy. Alongside the great work of other senior ministers, we have spent over 200 days of this parliamentary term overseas, almost always travelling during the parliamentary recesses. We have been accentuating the role of our diplomacy in all of our bilateral engagements, learning from counterparts about their challenges and expressing our values and our concerns wherever we go. This is true whether we're in Canberra, Washington, New York, Beijing, Brussels, London, Suva, Cairo or elsewhere. The government has prioritised relationships in our own region. This term we have visited every single Pacific Islands Forum country, every one. We have committed resources to seriously uplifting our relationships across Southeast Asia and beyond, and we have established a credible defence force to back up our words and other times and other expressions.
Not like Jacinda.
While our critics want us to bang endlessly on a big drum about the latest day's outrage, we prefer to promote the harmony of dialogue and the quiet beat of diplomacy to maintain and strengthen our regional and global relationships.
Supplementary.
Just remind the House that questions are supposed to be relatively concise. Jamie Arbuckle.
How does the government view the international system and the role of the United Nations?
New Zealand has been a staunch supporter of the United Nations going all the way back to Peter Fraser and the first Labour government. That supports a that support is undiminished. Of course, New Zealand, as a small state, benefits from an international system with the United Nations as its core. But at the same time, we recognise that the United Nations has to change. It must return to its focus on the core of the United Nations Charter, which is about peace and security, and it must be fit for purpose for the challenges facing its members in the 21st century. The international system has become overgrown and it needs pruning. Well, I would slow down, but you were complaining before about the answer being too long. Make up your mind, Chippy. Right? You know, you can't. Usually you take an hour to change your mind, but this time it took only 3 seconds. Now, where was I before? So I was interrupted. The international system has become overgrown and it needs pruning. To that end, we are co-leading the reform of New York on UN mandates. We're working constructively with Pacific nations and other partners to seriously reduce duplication, management costs, and to improve their focus and impact. We believe in the UN, but we want it, and we've made countless speeches on their need to reform.
Supplementary.
When a sub is being asked, the House is silent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Have you seen any reports on your travel in early 2025 to the Gulf region in North Asia?
Yes. Now, TVNZ ran a completely unhinged, unbalanced and disgraceful story last night about this travel to 2 regions of great importance to New Zealand in both diplomatic and trade terms. This was a visit during which we met political leaders, including foreign ministers of the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, China and Mongolia. Some fairly important countries in that list. And to those most important political leaders, we talked about all aspects of New Zealand's relations with North Asia and the Gulf, as well as a range of priority and international issues, including the Middle East. And you know what? Today, about their support for our developments in Antarctica. Exactly. Did TVNZ report any of this last night? Despite us supplying them with all this information? Of course not. They don't believe in balance, in honesty and integrity. They believe in gratuitous hit jobs. And they even mentioned the Parker fight in London. If they'd had the decency to ask me, I showed them receipts of me paying personally for me and my staff member, not the taxpayer, unlike you bludger.
Box that.
Question number 2, Chloe Swarbrick. Just wait for a moment.
E te Premier, e tautoko ana ia I ngā kōrero me ngā mahi katoa a tōna kāwanatanga.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes.
Why has his government declined funding for the Tairāwhiti transition case, among other community-led climate adaptation and resilience projects?
That's a question that would be best directed to the Climate Change Minister, but I'd just say this is a government that is committed to actually doing the work in a bipartisan way around climate adaptation, and actually all of us working together on a framework over the coming years because it's going to involve central government, local government, landowners, bankers and insurers.
Will he then commit to restarting said cross-party climate adaptation work, which has wound up several months ago, as we wrote to him requesting on the 28th of January?
Yeah, I think there was a very successful meeting last October, and I'm sure that work will continue.
Will he request that Cabinet restarts work on climate adaptation cost sharing in light of recent climate charge weather events and states of emergency, instead of delaying that decision as his Cabinet agreed to in October of last year?
Well, in light of the first part of the question, the answer to that is that we haven't stopped anything.
Does he think that it is fair that under his current policy settings, the government enables property buyouts for people left impacted by earthquakes, but it's up to ad hoc government decisions if they are instead impacted by climate-charged weather events?
Well, as I've said before, that's why we need to have a bipartisan approach and a national climate adaptation framework, because, as we've said before, it's not going to be feasible for the central government to buy out all those properties. The burden share is going to be between central government, local government, homeowners, bankers and insurers. It's ongoing work.
How can he say that his government is committed to climate adaptation, as he has just said, yet he will not fund community-led adaptation programs, has substantially delayed any decision-making on cost-sharing programs, won't restart cross-party work on adaptation, and has cut flood protection funding by 3/4?
Well, I'd just say to the member, we have spent $200 million on strengthening stop banks and flood protection, and I want to thank the Minister for Regional Infrastructure Fund, who's done a good job on that investment. And equally, we are building back roads with much more stronger resilience. Just look at the Hawke's Bay Expressway. I think it's twice as strong as it was before we were rebuilding it.
Question 3, the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government statements and actions?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes.
Why should New Zealanders believe that paying a new gas tax to pay for a new gas power plant that might never produce a single megawatt of electricity will ever lower their power bills?
Well, as we discussed yesterday, we're going to save average households about $50 according to the projections. We're making an investment in LNG import facility so we can lower power bills. If the member doesn't support it, he wants higher power bills.
Why should New Zealanders have faith in his claim that his new gas tax will lower the cost of their power bills when the official advisor's own cabinet was questioned whether any savings will ever be passed on to consumers?
I disagree. That's not what the advice said.
Does he agree with David Seymour that forcing households to subsidise gas through his new gas tax is in fact a levy?
Well, I haven't seen the quote from the Minister.
Well, does he agree with Winston Peters that adding costs to electricity bills amounts to a new tax?
I haven't seen those comments, but I can tell you power bills are going down.
Well, does he agree with his Energy Minister's own cabinet paper, which states that the liquefied natural gas facility will be paid for via a levy on electricity?
There's a charge to electricity companies, as we discussed yesterday. But the great thing is there's a saving to power bills for every single consumer in this country. And for that member to talk about energy policy, having banned the oil and gas ban, having had a Lake Onslow project at $17 billion in 2037 costing $8,000 a household, left New Zealand high and dry with $800 megawatt per hour prices, that's a shameful policy.
So, is it a tax, a levy, a fee or a charge?
What it is lower power bills for New Zealanders.
Will he guarantee, therefore, that the increased cost on electricity that his government is imposing will not be passed on to consumers?
Well, there won't be a high cost.
Question number 4.
Thank you, Mr
Just
Speaker.
wait. When you're ready. Question 4, Carl Bates.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, what recent announcement has she made relating to the Reserve Bank of New Zealand?
The
Mr.
Honourable
Speaker.
Nicola Willis.
Today, I announced an independent review into the Reserve Bank's monetary policy response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The purpose of the review is to learn from experience so that future shocks can be navigated in the best possible way. The review will focus on decisions by the Monetary Policy Committee and the analysis provided by the Reserve Bank to support those decisions.
Supplementary. Why is it important to learn from the monetary policy choices made in response to the pandemic?
Well, Mr Speaker, the Reserve Bank took unprecedented action in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This included reducing the official cash rate to 0.25% and using additional monetary policy tools, significantly including the large-scale asset purchase program, sometimes colloquially referred to as money printing. These actions, of course, did help preserve jobs and keep businesses afloat. At the same time, the indirect impacts included decades-high inflation, losses of about $10.3 billion on the LSAT program, and a spike in house prices as much as 30% in 1 year. It is important that independent eyes are cast over these decisions to ensure the best decisions are made in future major events. Those who do not learn the lessons of history, colleagues, are doomed to repeat them.
Supplementary. Who has been appointed to conduct the review?
Mr. Speaker, Athanasios Orphanides and David Archer have been appointed to conduct the review. Mr. Orphanides is a former governor of the Central Bank of Cyprus and member of the Governing Council of the European Central Bank and a professor of the practice of global economics and management at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Mr. Archer is a former Reserve Bank Assistant Governor and former head of the Central Banking Studies Unit at the Bank for International Settlements. Mr. Speaker, I took extensive advice from Treasury on who would have the suitable qualifications and experience to conduct this independent review. Their review will be independent, which means that the conclusions found can be objective and constructive.
Supplementary. Will the review look at the fiscal policy response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, Mr. Speaker, not specifically. However, the review will consider whether the Monetary Policy Committee and the Treasury were effectively sharing information and what improvements could be made to the framework and operation of the coordination of monetary and fiscal policy, which is to say, Mr. Speaker, that if you've got a lot of spending happening on one side and a lot of money printing happening on the other side, you need to consider how that comes together. And it is important because loose fiscal policy through out-of-control spending can, of course, work against monetary policy objectives. For example, when the Reserve Bank is raising interest rates to bring down high inflation, expansionary fiscal policy can work counter to that. Sadly, New Zealanders have recently experienced the pain of that as inflation soared under the previous government, but of course it continued spending. This government is getting spending under control and has supported the Reserve Bank to bring inflation down, and that is good news for every Kiwi household.
Question 5, the Honourable Marama Davidson.
Thank you. Ki te Premier e tautoko ana ia I ngā kōrero me ngā mahi katoa a tōna kāwanatanga.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Yes.
Does he want to see more or less protection for the environment under the new resource management system?
What we want is more economic growth.
What aspects of his proposed resource management reforms would hold multinational companies like Veolia to account for the tens of millions of litres of human waste spewing into Wellington's south coast every day?
Well, that's an issue, as the member will be aware, that is an issue for Wellington City Council to answer, and we are supporting and doing everything we can to help them with an independent review and any other analysis we can help with, but that's ultimately a council call.
Just make it clear that members who interrupt a question being asked will be asked to leave the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is his Minister for Resource Management Reform correct that under the new proposed resource management bills, offshore forestry companies could possibly be compensated if communities like Tairāwhiti wanted to protect their homes and rivers from forestry slash with environmental rules?
No, this is a set of RMA bills that are designed to simplify the New Zealand system so we can get on and get things done and built. We expect 50% less consents. We want to get things done and built in this country. We are accelerating economic growth, and we will also support our environment as well.
Why should New Zealanders pay polluters not to pollute?
Well, I'd reject the premise of the question. What we're doing is we're accelerating economic growth so we can make New Zealand wealthier and lift the living standards of every single Kiwi.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Seymour.
Will the new resource management laws make, for example, it easier for a Green Party council to consent the infrastructure to keep the sewage out of the sea?
Absolutely, that's the point. Irrespective of the political flavour of a city council, we want them to be able to get on and get things done.
Question number 6, the Honourable Barbara Edmonds.
Vinaka Vakalevu, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, Is a 15-year high in liquidations one of her, quote, signs of a growing economy, unquote?
The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Mr Speaker, no.
Supplementary. Is a 50% increase in hospitality liquidations a sign of a growing economy?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to report that I spoke with a representative from Hospitality New Zealand yesterday who said that things are feeling so much better in the hospitality sector. With many new bars and cafes being created, the sector is extraordinarily grateful to Minister Louise Upston for her work on Events Boost, her work to support the tourism industry and the tourists who are attending cafes and restaurants. And they're also grateful for lower interest rates, which has seen consumer confidence increase and more people going out for a meal or a drink.
Supplementary. Is the liquidation of 751 construction companies a sign of an economy that is growing?
Mr Speaker, no, but has been traversed in this House frequently. One of the things that construction companies are most sensitive to is interest rates, because construction projects are often debt financed, and whether or not projects can proceed will depend on interest rates. And unfortunately, construction companies have found it very difficult during a period of high interest. Another reason why we stand very strongly on our record of supporting the Reserve Bank to have lower interest rates than would otherwise be the case.
Supplementary. Are 156,000 children living in material hardship, as reported by the Salvation Army, a sign of a growing economy?
Mr Speaker, no. However, what I would say is that there would be more children who would be experiencing material hardship if it were not for this government's decisive measures to increase working for families payments to low and middle income households, to provide tax relief to working families, to support the Family Boost tax credit for those with children in early childhood education, and, Mr Speaker, most importantly to me...
Rare and reasonable for interjections, not continued commentary in the form of a barrage like that. Carry on.
Our work to take children who were living in squalid motel rooms out of those motel rooms and put them into warm, dry, state houses.
Supplementary. Are 42,000 more people unemployed since she took office a sign of a growing economy?
No, Mr Speaker, but I encourage the member to go back and look at the pre-election fiscal update that her predecessor Grant Robertson published, which forecast that this would occur as a result of a period of high inflation and high interest rates. And boy, oh boy, are we working hard as a team to drive job creation and get that unemployment number down. And I want to congratulate Ministers Bishop and Shane Jones for the 9 projects that are advancing under the Fast Track project, which will literally support thousands of jobs. And again say what a shame it is that that member didn't win the argument in her caucus that job creation is more important than cuddling up to the Greens.
Supplementary. When will she admit that what the economy really needs to start improving is just one person, her, to lose her job?
Well, Mr Speaker, things from Barbara Edmonds have taken a turn for the worse, and I can confirm for her that I take responsibility for fixing the mess her predecessor left me, and I am supported by an extraordinary team of ministers who are on that case.
Question 7, Suze Redmayne.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture. How do New Zealand sheep farmers contribute to the economy?
Mr Speaker, in so many ways. Last year, lamb exports exceeded $4 billion for the first time, with almost 300,000 tonnes exported. That's about 3 billion lamb cutlets, less what members ate on the lawn today, or about $2,000 for every New Zealand household. Mr Speaker, we heard on the Country Live with Jamie Mackay live on the Speaker's lawn that Sunday is National Lamb Day and marks the beginning of the New Zealand's multi-billion-dollar red meat export industry. That first shipment of sheep meat 144 years ago established our global reputation for high-quality meat exports. This week, it's fitting we acknowledge the generations of farmers, processors, exporters whose dedication has made New Zealand a world leader in primary food production and whose efforts continue to underpin our export performance.
Supplementary. What contribution has the food and fibre sector made to New Zealand's export performance?
Well, Mr Speaker, for the first time ever, New Zealand's annual exports have exceeded $80 billion. More than 75% of that is driven by the food and fibre sector, signalling the strong global demand for New Zealand's trusted, high-value products. Our sheep farmers, processors and exporters delivered an exceptional result last year, with lamb exports up 30%, mutton exports up 43% for the previous year. This growth exceeded that of other primary exports. Mr Speaker, it is clear that agriculture is the backbone of our economy. This important export milestone demonstrates the ongoing international demand for high-quality New Zealand products, and when rural New Zealand does well, so does all of New Zealand.
Supplementary. How is the government continuing to support farmers and exporters?
Well, Mr Speaker, we're making it easier to farm by cutting red tape, including replacing the RMA, delivering sensible freshwater farm plans, investing in the health and well-being of rural New Zealand, and working closely with farmers, not against them. We're also backing exporters with practical action, removing barriers to trade, leading more trade missions, and opening preferential access to New Zealand new markets. As an example, since the EU FTA entered into force in May 2024, exports have grown from New Zealand by $2 billion. Since the UAE Free Trade Agreement entered into force in August of last year, we've seen a 38% increase in exports. We've concluded a deal with the GCC and, most notably, concluded negotiations with India. Mr Speaker, with a population of 1.4 billion people, as with many other exporters, lamb farmers will see a tariff rate fall from 33% to 0 on day one, which is good for red meat consumers in India.
Supplementary. What does the latest data tell us about the strength of New Zealand's food and fibre sector overall?
Mr Speaker, it shows a sector that is world-leading and continues to reach new heights on the international stage on behalf of all New Zealanders. Surpassing $80 billion in total exports for the first time is a milestone driven largely by New Zealand's food and fibre sector, our farmers and growers. Demand remains strong across key markets, reflecting the quality of New Zealand production and the hard work of those farmers and growers. Mr Speaker, this year, as we celebrate 144 years since that first shipment of lamb left our shores, I invite all members of this House to join me in thanking our farmers and growers for their hard work and dedication.
Before I call the member, can I just say I thought very carefully about this particular question when it was considered this morning. I'd simply say that the material that was provided was somewhat thin in its verification of the terminology used in the question. Because someone says something doesn't make it necessarily the case. It is always the opposition's desire, I understand this fully, to name or brand a particular initiative in a particular way. It is the government's job to refute that, and therefore the question was able to stand. I call question number 8. Dr Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Energy. Is it correct that gas users won't pay the reported, quote, gas tax, end quote, but households and businesses that use electricity will?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Simon Watts.
Mr Speaker, no. The levy is on the electricity sector, as LNG is a backup for electricity supply in dry years. Having an LNG terminal will lower power prices for businesses and households.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Will gas users pay a levy?
Mr Speaker, as I have answered in my primary question, the levy is on the electricity sector because LNG is a backup for the electricity supply in dry years.
Supplementary question. Was the Prime Minister wrong to refer to the reported, quote, unquote, gas tax as a charge electricity companies will pay when his cost recovery impact statement made clear that these charges will likely be passed on to consumers via their monthly power bills?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is never wrong, but what he also said is that the outcome of this policy announcement will be to lower power prices.
Entry question. Is the Prime Minister correct when he said in question time today, well, there won't be higher cost? Or was he correct in his cabinet paper when he said over-reliance on LNG would link domestic gas prices to global markets, increasing costs for consumers?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was correct, and I will help the member by reading the full quote that officials provided to Cabinet, which ends with saying that it is expected to be more than offset by lower electricity prices.
Thank you. Thank you. Supplementary.
Anytime.
What are the specific market dynamics he is referring to in his cabinet paper that states the extent to which this downward pressure actually results in a reduction in electricity bills will depend on a range of market dynamics?
Mr. Speaker, in reference to the member's question, ultimately the policy outcome from an LNG terminal will be to lower power prices. The reality of power prices is that they are subject to international factors because it is a marketplace. But at the end of the day, households and businesses can have certainty that their power prices will reduce.
Point of order, Mr. Sorry.
Point of order, the Honourable Higgins-Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I asked a very straight and a very direct question asking what the specific market dynamics were that were referred to in a cabinet paper. The Minister did not address that question. He did not tell us what those market dynamics were.
Well, I heard him talk about international pricing.
No, would you like me to repeat it?
No, I don't want you to repeat it because I heard the answer. So the right honourable Winston Peters.
I asked the Minister as to whether he intends to follow the Megan Woods solution to supply side by shutting the source of supply down and leaving it open to the vagaries of international market, namely Marsden Point.
Mr. Speaker, no, but I do want to refer the member to feedback from Business New Zealand today, which says that the procurement of an LNG terminal has the potential to lower extreme electricity prices that New Zealand faces in dry years.
Supplementary question.
The Honourable Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry,
on what date will he...
who she was.
Oh, well, I'll remind you, Mr. Speaker. On what date will he release the modelling that sits behind the reported savings?
Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet paper that includes a full range of advice that Cabinet considered was actually released yesterday.
Not the modelling.
Not the modelling. Release the modelling.
When will you release the modelling?
We have question 9, Greg Fleming. There's a question being asked.
E te manga o te whare. To the Minister for Building and Construction, what progress, if any, has been made in approving overseas building products for use in New Zealand?
The Honourable Chris Pink.
Speaker, thank you. This week the government recognised the second tranche of overseas building products certified under the reputable Australian Watermark scheme, issuing 54 recognition notices covering nearly 40,000 products. This builds on the first round in October of last year, which made it easier to bring more than 90,000 Watermark-approved products to market, including tapware, water service products and sanitary and stormwater drainage products.
How will easier access to a broader range of building products benefit New Zealanders?
Mr. Speaker, this new pipeline of products features materials that are already tried and tested in Australia and are familiar to many Kiwi tradies. Until now, though, builders and designers have had to individually prove each product met the building code when seeking consent. Rather than assessing products one by one, MB can now recognise tens of thousands at once. Building consent authorities must accept them as compliant, thereby cutting red tape, costs and delays in their usage.
Are the overseas building products entering the New Zealand market meeting high quality standards?
Mr. Speaker, before any product can be recognised, MB undertakes a clear two-step assessment. Number one, it ensures the overseas certification scheme itself is robust, accredited and comparable to New Zealand's system. Second, it confirms that there's sufficient evidence that the products meet the requirements of the New Zealand Building Code. MB also retains strong powers under the Building Act to investigate products, issue warnings or bans and respond to complaints about false or misleading claims. As a result, sir, Kiwis can be confident that the products now being made more readily available are well made, high-performing and tested against rigorous international standards.
And can Kiwis expect to see more overseas building products become available?
Why, yes, Mr Speaker. Watermark is just the beginning, and as the MB continues to actively review overseas building products under the new law, tradies and homeowners can expect steadily increasing access to a wider range of essential materials. My friend says that we've turned on the tap, and he's not wrong, Mr Van der Molen. Alongside the plumbing and drainage products already approved, including plasterboard, cladding, windows and doors. Our reforms to expand access to building products are already delivering real results and will help strengthen New Zealand's construction sector for decades to come.
Question number 10, Cameron Luxton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister for Children, what recent announcements has she made regarding partnerships between Oranga Tamariki and community organisations?
The Honourable Karen Chord.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Last week in Whangarei, I attended the launch of Tama Ariki, a new prototype between Oranga Tamariki and Taitimu Taipari, a collective of 3 Māori NGOs. The prototype expands on the work that Taitimu Taipari have already been doing with Oranga Tamariki in supporting the triaging of reports of concern across 3 sites in the region, and will see the establishment of a community hub. The hub will provide a physical space to triage reports of concern and community-based referrals, and will help families navigate a range of services which will ultimately ensure the safety and well-being of children and young people, which is my top priority.
Supplementary. But what other partnerships does Oranga Tamariki have with community organisations?
Mr Speaker, Oranga Tamariki currently has 10 strategic partnerships under Section 7 of the Oranga Tamariki Act 1989. Despite claims at the time that Oranga Tamariki repeal of Section 7A Amendment Act did not mean that the end of strategic partnerships between Oranga Tamariki, iwi and Māori. I've always been committed to the idea of Oranga Tamariki working alongside those on the ground who have solutions and are enabling communities to develop and deliver approaches that work best for their area. We know that the top-down and one-size-fits-all approach from Wellington is not the solution, and we are about empowering people and communities to be able to choose for themselves and have real self-determination.
Supplementary. What are her aspirations for these partnerships?
Mr Speaker, my aspiration is that more and more of these partnerships will develop over time, and that the existing ones will continue to be strengthened and expanded as capacity and capability grows. Each of these will be unique and dependent on the needs of the local communities, children and their families. I want to see Oranga Tamariki through their Enabling Communities program to test new initiatives, approaches for supporting children and young people within their own communities. In some cases, this will even involve the formal decision-making powers currently held by Oranga Tamariki being transferred to the community partners, where this is going to result in better outcomes for our young people.
Supplementary. What is the Minister's response to people who say that there has been a decline in trust and the relationships between Oranga Tamariki and Māori communities?
Mr Speaker, since becoming the Minister of Children, I've been up and down the country, meeting not only with Oranga Tamariki frontline staff, but with the community social service providers, including iwi, hapu and Māori providers that Oranga Tamariki work with. I've been building up those relationships alongside Oranga Tamariki, and we're working through new agreements across the country, like the one with Taitimu Taipari in the Whangarei and Te Tai Tokerau area. Even in the last week, while at Waitangi, I had many productive conversations with a number of representatives from various iwi and hapu who are excited about the opportunities to work with Oranga Tamariki in genuine partnership and take the lead in delivering better outcomes. I want to acknowledge these partners and communities, as well as the staff involved in this complex but vital work to ensure we have a system that truly puts the children first.
Question 11, the Honourable Willie Jackson.
Of Social Development and Employment, does the Minister stand by her statement this government is focused on helping more Kiwis into work and giving them greater opportunities? And if so, where is that reflected in the latest unemployment stats that show that unemployment is at a 10-year high?
The Honourable Louise Upson.
Mr Speaker, yes, the labour market figures for the December quarter released last week show an additional 15,000 people in work. And positively, total hours worked, the number of people actively seeking work, the number of job advertisements and the hiring intentions of employers have also increased. The labour force participation rate has also increased for the first time since March 24. During the early stages of a labour market recovery, participation typically increases before unemployment begins to fall, as more people enter the labour market and start looking for work. We know the unemployment rate is always one of the last things to come right after a recession, but we are seeing positive signs of a growing economy.
Can I ask the Minister, how many Māori are currently unemployed, and what are the greater opportunities, as she calls it, that Māori are receiving?
Well, Mr Speaker, as I've said, there are some really positive signs in terms of the economy turning. Let me give you just one example. The latest filled jobs data shows that the strongest annual growth is in the hospitality sector, with jobs up 19% compared with the same quarter last year. During labour market downturns, hospitality is one of the first sectors to show signs of recovery, as demand in this industry tends to respond quickly when consumer spending picks up. Mr Speaker, I know in terms of the growth in tourism, hospitality is directly connected to the growth in opportunities for Māori employment, and I look forward to seeing those numbers increase.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, does she agree with the Salvation Army State of the Nation report that under her watch the number of unemployed people continues to rise, disproportionately impacting Māori, Pasifika and disabled people? And if so, what is she doing to address the mess that she has created?
Well, Mr Speaker, we know that the last 5 years have been challenging for New Zealanders, and we saw the unemployment rate start to rise in March 2021. So I accept for many families it has been challenging and continues to be challenging. And we do know that certain groups in our population are disproportionately affected. That's why, Mr Speaker, I'm really encouraged by the fact that we are now seeing total hours work increase by over 1% over the last quarter, which is the second consecutive rise after an increase in September 2025. We're also seeing work exits from benefit continue to rise, despite there being some challenging circumstances, with 83,532 people exiting a main benefit into work in last year.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Willie Jackson.
Mr Speaker, I'll ask again. The question is...
No, just make your point.
Okay. I talked about Māori, Pasifika and disabled, Mr Speaker. I don't believe the Minister addressed any of those groups.
Well, the Minister certainly addressed the hours that are worked by people. If the Minister wants to, I'll ask the Minister to perhaps respond in a way that addresses some of those aspects.
Mr Speaker, I did. I said that certain groups of the population, including Māori, Pasifika and disabled, are disproportionately affected when we have unemployment rates, and I would add that actually, in terms of the pre-election fiscal update, unemployment's exactly where it was meant to be.
Supplementary
question, Right Honourable Winston-Peters.
Could I ask the Minister whether she's got a view on the fact that if you blow out the national debt by $92 billion, that you're likely to have problems with unemployment in the ensuing years, and being a most difficult problem to get on top of?
Mr Speaker, that's why I said unemployment has been rising since March 2021. Our government has been dealing head-on with the challenges that we inherited, and we haven't shied away from it. We are really clear about the opportunities the employment brings. That's why we're focused on growing the economy and providing new employment opportunities, whether it's areas like mining, tourism and hospitality, building and construction, or those who are working in farming and growing our wonderful sheep.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, does the Minister take any responsibility for the increase in job seeker numbers, given the Minister's target for 50,000 fewer people on job seeker benefit is now completely off the track and is worse now since the Minister came into office?
Well, Mr Speaker, as I said, unemployment has been rising since March 2021, and we have confronted the challenge head on. And that's why I'm really proud to see that the team at MSD are working very differently, in a far more active way, very intensively with some groups of job seekers. And, Mr Speaker, it's no surprise to me that despite challenging economic times, we've seen 83,532 people exit benefit into work in the last year alone.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, does she agree with the State of Nation report that was released today that since 2023 the average amount of hardship payments have reduced, making it even harder for job seekers and those on a benefit to make ends meet?
That's right. Well, Mr Speaker, as one of my colleagues traversed before, one of the challenges when we have the rates of unemployment that we have is that families do it tough, and we fully accept that they have been. Our focus is ensuring families have the opportunity to be in employment, to take up the opportunities that exist in this great country of ours. Unlike the other side, we're not willing to sit back and let people rot on welfare. We are very active in supporting them into work, which improves their opportunities and reduces hardship.
Mr Speaker,
Supplementary question, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Is the government planning on helping the Maori Party into work, or is that just the Labour Party's position?
The Honourable Willie Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, does she think it's helpful that members of her own government have described workers as losers and bottom feeders when it is her and her government that are making things worse, not better?
Well, Mr Speaker, I refute the comment that member made. Anyone who has followed any of what has happened over the last 5 years knows exactly what happens when there is wasteful spending, high government debt, high inflation, high interest rates, leads to a recession, people lose their jobs. Our side is fixing it.
Question number 12, Dr Hamish Campbell.
My question is the Associate Minister of Transport. What recent announcement has the Minister made about roading in Canterbury?
The Honourable James Meagher.
Speaker, on Sunday, along with Waitaki MP and local boy Miles Anderson, we announced that work to replace State Highway 82's existing Waiho North River and Elephant Hill Stream bridges was underway. These two South Canterbury bridges are both more than a century old now, and it's actually more cost effective to replace them than to continue paying for maintenance. We are investing $14 million in the Waiho North River Bridge replacement and $5.7 million in the new Elephant Hill Stream Bridge. These bridge replacements are part of our government's plan to fix the basics when it comes to roading infrastructure and build the future for a resilient and thriving South Canterbury.
Supplementary. What other announcements has the Minister made about roading in the Canterbury region?
Oh, Mr Speaker, there's good news here as well. NZTA has signed a contract with Fletcher's Construction for the construction of the second Ashburton Bridge, aka Browns Bridge. They'll progress detailed design so construction can kick off next month. We've also confirmed $38.5 million to replace the earthquake-damaged Pages Road Bridge in Christchurch. This is an important project for the people of New Brighton, South Shore and the greater Christchurch area. Geotech work is well underway on the State Highway 1 Belfast to Pegasus motorway and the Wood End Bypass project. This road of national significance will save up to 10 minutes at peak time and is also expected to reduce traffic through Wood End from 21,000 vehicles per day down to 8,000. Work on Brougham Street continues. The Ralston Flyover project is underway with significant works at the Burnham end of State Highway 1. And finally, I'm aware that Minister Patterson recently announced $2.8 million to upgrade the Timaru Showgrounds intersection, an investment which I'm told was very well received by the local MP.
Supplementary. Where else in the South Island has the government invested in roading?
Mr Speaker, many more places. We've announced $23 million for a range of high-priority roading corridors in the South Island to protect against natural disasters. These include State Highway 60, Takaka Hill, State Highway 94, Milford Road Sound to Te Anau Downs, State Highway 6, Cromwell to Frankton, Frankton to Kingston, and the Hope Saddle to State Highway 65, Higgins Bluff. Last year, we announced $72.6 million of funding to progress design, consenting and procurement activities for the Hope Bypass in sunny and ambitious Nelson. And at the end of last year, we announced $7 million in funding to progress the State Highway 6 Epitaph Landslide Resilience Improvements Project. The taxpayer is also investing $5 million into critical improvements around the gates of Haast on State Highway 6. Mr Speaker, both projects are crucial not only for the West Coast connectivity, but for the wider South Islands and is vital for our tourism connections. Can I thank my colleague Maureen Pugh, who's been a tireless champion for the coast, and whoever follows in her footsteps has huge shoes to fill.
Supplementary, Taku Te Whereas.
Tēnā koe te pika. Will the Minister consider applying an iwi partnership model, similar to those used in other major roading projects across the country, such as the Kaikoura Works for the Wood End bypass and the wider Canterbury transport programs?
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that sounds like a public-private partnership, and I'm sure the Minister of Transport would be interested in all such proposals.
What steps will the Minister take to ensure that iwi such as Ngai Tahu and iwi in Te Tauihu o Te Waka a Māui, along with Māori, are provided the opportunity to contribute to such infrastructure projects and have the opportunity for opportunities such as workforce participation and procurement?
Mr. Speaker, entities like Ngāi Tahu make a huge and valuable contribution to the South Island, and if they are interested in supporting any of our government's initiatives, we would welcome them with open arms.
Supplementary. What engagement has occurred to date with mana whenua in the Canterbury and wider Te Waipounamu area on the Wood End bypass and other projects, obviously in the pipework, and how has that input influence the project's design and or delivery?
Mr. Speaker, I'll have to get the members some specific information about the Wood End bypass project, but we are constantly in talks with the likes of Ngāi Tahu because they, of course, make a huge and significant contribution to the South Island and are an important part to play in the future of our country.
That concludes oral questions. Members who have other business, please leave the House quickly and without conversation on the way. Oh, it's split, is it? Yeah.